Hello, everybody, and welcome to FinovateEurope 2024. My name is Tyler Page. I'm a reporter with FinTech Futures. We're here at day 2 of the event, and I'm very, very happy to be joined by Brett Magrath, Chief Product Officer of Chipper Cash.
Cool, good to be here, man. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely to see you, Brett. How are you?
Yeah, good. Just had our fireside chat, so it was good fun.
How did it go?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, nice to share some experiences and views and opinions on payments in Africa and FinTech in Africa. So yeah, it was exciting.
That's really, really fantastic. Well, we're here to talk about Chipper Cash. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what the FinTech is, please?
Yeah. So as Chipper Cash, we are a FinTech business focused on Africa. We are licensed in a number of markets from Nigeria, Uganda, Ghana, Rwanda, and Zambia. Our head office is based in the US. We also licensed in 40 states in the US. And we have almost like two kind of divisions, right? So we've got our consumer side of our business and what we call Chipper for Business. So as our consumers, we at the core provide the ability to move money into and out of the countries that our customers are in. And that could be in fiat rails, it could be leveraging crypto, it could be using card rails. We have an investment component that kind of looks at investing in fractional US stocks. It's also got a crypto component. And then a spend aspect, which is really around domestic marketplaces and spending in country, as well as accessing our US dollar Visa card, where you can use that to kind of spend as a consumer. On the Chipper for Business side, we obviously are building a whole lot of payment rails for our consumer business. And on the Chipper for Business side, we're really looking to open up those payment rails for companies, in the US or Europe or anywhere outside of Africa that's looking for a payment solution into or out of Africa. So we enable disbursements and collections across 40 countries in Africa. So if you're a business looking to send money into or get money out of Africa, we're looking to provide that service for you.
That's really, really fascinating. You've got a very broad sort of service suite. I really, really like that. And in a really interesting and fascinating market like Africa. Yeah. From your standpoint then, what can you tell us about the current FinTech landscape across the continent?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of investment into FinTech in Africa. And I think that investment is kind of structured in a few tiers, right? So the first tier is really the foundational side, which is building an ability to identify a user. So there's a lot of digital forms of onboarding that we're seeing across FinTechs across the world. So you need to make sure that infrastructure is available in Africa to facilitate those services. So that's something that we spend a lot of time with and are integrating into different government databases such that we can identify and verify users. The other side of that is then the payment infrastructure. So it's, a lot of that didn't exist historically. So there's been a lot of money that's gone into building out this infrastructure that's enabling, real-time payments and collections across that infrastructure. Outside of that, there's been a lot of work on the regulatory space and all of those kind of funky things. At the core, like I said, that's like that foundational layer that enables a lot of services to then start plugging in on top of that. So you're seeing a lot of investment into, quite creative credit solutions that are using credit data that previously didn't exist. You're looking at things like what we're offering in terms of connecting African consumers to global services that they previously didn't have. So I think it's quite an exciting space. It's a massive, massive market, and there's a huge need for the services that our companies are bringing. So it's an interesting space and time for the continent.
In terms of investment, I think the continent is projected to reach $65 billion by 2030. So do you think it's an issue of financial inclusion that it's looking to solve?
So I think a bit of both. I think there is still a need for more financial inclusion. I mean, unless everybody is included, there's always a task to drive financial inclusion. But I think that mobile money has facilitated quite a good role in domestic financial inclusion in the continent. As I said, until everyone has access, we haven't reached that goal. But where I think financial inclusion starts coming in is why is it that certain people living in London have access to certain financial services that grow their wealth that people in Africa don't have access to? So financial inclusion is not just about a domestic rail. I think it's about the services that plug in on top of that infrastructure, and really bringing like top-notch global services to African consumers.
That's really, really interesting. In terms of when we look at the demographics of the continent, it's projected, I think, by the UN that you're going to see a 40% rise in sort of the middle class demographic in Africa. What is Chipper Cash's role then in facilitating the changing financial needs of those people?
Yeah. So I think, I think a key component is when you have a lot more people, you need to enable a lot more business and a lot more trade. I think Africa is made up of 54 different countries, and we don't have enough intra-Africa trade amongst our different countries. And as Chipper, we see that as one of the roles and things we want to try and do is be that payment service provider that enables much faster, easier, and cheaper and more accessible cross-border transactional and payment services. And we believe that will drive economic growth in these countries, because with that growth in population, you've got to have economic stimulation and drive behind that. And the role we play is how we facilitate the payment component of that, which we think is extremely important to facilitate that cross intra-Africa, cross-country trade.
Are you seeing greater proliferation in one country over the rest? Is there one area where there's really been a huge transformation in the last 10 years?
So I think, I think Africa is quite split into its different regions. You've got a lot happening in the southern components, or southern and central, eastern, western, northern. So each region has got different strategies. There's been a lot of growth domestically in terms of domestic switches that have been popping up in different countries. So in the UK and Europe, we talk about faster payments and things like that. That same infrastructure is being built in Africa, and it's then extending into regional switches and regional infrastructure that's happening. So I think you can't look at Africa as one piece. It's 54 uniquely identified countries that have different customer needs in each of them, and have different trading partners and different services. But you've got to understand where trade or what is flowing between those countries, and then really try and prioritize the services you provide between those countries, and get your price point and get your service level at the right spot.
That is a really interesting thing to say, in that it's a very unique and also very fragmented market, as you would expect from a continent of so many different countries and cultures. How is Chipper Cash then leveraging or enhancing its technology to make sure that it's able to meet the very specific needs of each country where it operates?
I think one of the privileges or one of the benefits, let's say, of being a new company, and I put new company in a 5-year bracket, but we can, we have the privilege of being able to build our tech stack on the latest technologies that are out there, and design it in a way that allows us to be very agile in how we provide services to our customers. I think that is not a privilege that a lot of let's say traditional banks in a lot of the countries we trade in have. They're sitting on legacy systems, and I think that's a constant thing. We know that the world has changed with what's happening with natural language and AI, and we're constantly looking at how we embed that into our services. So even within our own onboarding flows, we're leveraging a lot of new technologies that's facilitating more automated, faster, more risk related onboarding flows. So it's something that we are very much of an engineering focused business. Our customers at the center of everything we do, but we very much place a lot of emphasis on how we solve problems and the speed that we can solve them at, and being agile to the needs of our customer and the uniqueness of each country. So the Chipper service in each country is slightly different depending on the market, sometimes driven by regulation, sometimes driven by customer needs, but you need to be flexible in how you do that, and having flexible technology at the core is an important component.
Definitely, I think that sort of element of agility that you're talking about is really the deciding factor in being able to tap the African market and serve its needs well. Here at Finovate Day 2, one thing that I noticed when I was looking at the agenda was the prominence of this conversation that we're having right now in the rate of innovation in Africa, and how quickly the continent's technology is changing.
Yeah.
The world has its eyes on Africa right now, and what can it learn from the rate of innovation that we're seeing?
So I think there's a braveness in Africa to leapfrog, and I think that you need to have that mindset. I think like that mindset of building something for exponential scale, that mindset of building something that can be done better than it's done elsewhere, and as I said, like leveraging the latest technology. I think if you're not doing that, especially right now, like the world changed a year ago, and we all need to be thinking that what we built 2 years ago is no longer necessarily acceptable. So you've got to work out how you leverage these leapfrog technologies, whether it's what's happening in AI, whether it's what's happening with cryptocurrencies. But you've got to embrace these services, because I think but you've got to make sure you're finding the customer need to match the two together. I think outside of that, Africa is a very, a population of very resilient people that have had to learn to thrive in chaos. And I think it's something that as a financial service provider, we need to be able to provide services at the greatest level in that chaos. We transact in countries where exchange rates are jumping up and down, and we need to make sure that in those times, the services that we provide meet are stable, are reliable. It's very tricky, when a currency is devaluing and people are trying to, I don't know, in some cases get access to US dollars because it's more reliable. Like, do you have sufficient amount of it, and how do you manage those liquidity needs along with the technology challenges? But at its core, it's not seeing instability as an issue, but actually thriving in those situations. And I think that's something we value and try and hold ourselves accountable to.
That's very, very interesting. And I think it's a really interesting way to see the situation, and a very sort of promising way to view it as well. In terms of Finovate Europe 2024 this year, we're well into the second day now. What specific technologies or concepts do you have your eye out for, or are you looking for partnerships, or what is it?
Yeah, I think there's been a few interesting aspects around onboarding. I mean, there's quite a lot of focus on onboarding. We have built quite a lot in-house now with our onboarding services, but it's always interesting to engage and learn. There's obviously a lot of things starting to happen in the AI space around how you improve customer flows, how you improve fraud controls. So there's a lot of things there that we can learn. But I think partnerships are key to any fintech. I think we've got a lot of partnerships. One with Visa, which we host our virtual cards. So as Chipper, we've issued over 1 million cards into Africa. We've got through this kind of strong and growing partnership with Visa. But we also have partnerships with other fintech businesses who do similar things to what we do, but maybe in different regions of the continent, where we can access their infrastructure, they can access our infrastructure. So although we compete in what we provide, we don't necessarily compete in geography. But that ability to collectively try and solve this problem, I think, is important.
That's a really, really good attitude to have to addressing the needs of the market. And I'm really, really excited to see what Chipper Cash will do next. But Brett Magrath, it's been really, really awesome. Fantastic to speak to you. Thank you to everybody who's followed along with this conversation. If you would like to find out more, please visit fintechfutures.com. Until then, I shall see you soon. Thank you.